Let's begin today with how important is this election to our nation's history?
Well, I think, Justin, at this point in our history, it's very important. With all the issues that are taking place, both domestically and overseas, whoever's elected in November of 2008 really gets to set the table for the future generations. And if you look at the conflict in Iraq, the conflict in Afghanistan, if you look at the problems we're having in our economy, the decisions they're going to make and the people or person that's going to make those decisions are going to put a very big blueprint out there for the next 10, 15, 20 years. So I think it's very, very important for people to look at the issues, look at the candidates, and realize that this person is going to step into the Oval Office in January of 2009 in a very, very pivotal role.
What are some of the other major issues in this race?
Well, I think domestically, issues with like home foreclosures, the struggle with Wall Street, struggles with healthcare and the cost of prescription drugs, the ever-changing environment of immigration and illegal immigration, of national security concerns and terrorism. Clearly, those are important issues that the candidates are trying to address, trying to put policy out there for prospective voters to consider. And then overseas, I think one of the issues that we keep, as younger individuals in America, keep forgetting about is this idea of global warming. It's an issue that no one has really addressed, and I think it's an issue that no one wants to address because there are no simple solutions to that problem.
The current delegate count stands for Clinton at 1,148 and Obama 1,121. And on the Republican side, McCain has 723 delegates to Huckabee's 217. Is there a clear frontrunner on either side of the aisle?
Well, I think as of last week, after Super Tuesday, clearly most of the establishment considered John McCain to be the presumptive nominee for the Republican Party. What's interesting about that is after Super Tuesday, Governor Romney decided to drop out of the race. Governor Huckabee decided to stay in, and over the weekend, 3 out of the 4 contests, Governor Huckabee won those caucuses. And it clearly threw a little bit of a snafu into Senator McCain's plan. We'll see what happens today after the so-called Potomac primaries in Maryland, in Virginia, and D.C. Most people assume that Senator McCain is going to do well. On the Democratic side, I think it only gets more confusing after today's primaries in Virginia and D.C. and in Maryland. I think most experts would consider those to be strong winning states for Senator Obama. And I think because of that, most people might assume, a casual person might assume that would mean Senator Obama is going to be the nominee for the Democratic Party. I don't think that we can count Senator Clinton out. This is the same scenario that sort of took place after Iowa. She came back with a very strong victory in New Hampshire. These are smaller states in some ways. They're more urban states. They tend to play to Senator Obama's base. Where some larger states coming up, like Pennsylvania, Ohio, and Texas, later in February and early March, definitely traditionally have been more strengths for Senator Clinton. I think that the Democratic race is going to go very late into the spring. I'm hopeful that it doesn't go to the convention undecided. I think that could create some real problems for the Democratic Party. And I think for younger voters, that would create a lot of confusion. The Republican race, I think, is much stronger in where it's headed.
Let's stay on the topic of the Republican race. What is the impact of Romney's suspension of his campaign?
Well, I think most people would assume that Romney suspending his campaign would be a positive experience, a positive event for Senator McCain. I kind of take a different look on that, or take on that, in that I think by doing that, all the spotlight is going to be on Senator McCain. And because of that, people are going to look more closely at his policies, at his views, at his record, and that may not necessarily bode well for him in the short term in terms of gaining some support from all the different bases of voters in the Republican Party. And I think that may actually make his task a little bit more difficult in the general election in the fall. I think it'll allow Democratic candidates now still challenging for the nominee to start pinpointing and criticizing him on a variety of different issues and attributes. And I think it's actually going to make life more difficult. I think it was a really good move on Governor Romney's perspective, in that he basically saw that he wasn't going to get the nominee. He realized that the longer he took, the more money it was going to cost him, and the more maybe favors he was going to have to call in. I think Governor Romney is really looking toward the future, and he may in fact be the future of the Republican Party. I think he has to develop some more rapport with some of the Republican base. But I think looking at 2012, 2016, it would be very surprising for him not to be the favorite to get the nominee from the Republican Party in either of those presidential election cycles.
Where is Governor Romney's delegates eventually going to go? Which candidate?
That's hard to tell. I mean, because he suspended his campaign and he didn't officially drop out, the understanding is that those delegates are still sort of pledged to him, and he gets to kind of have a lot more say on what's going to happen to those delegates come convention time. I would imagine that he would just allow those delegates to make a decision on their own. I don't think their decision one way or the other is going to play into this. Although Governor Huckabee has had some success of late, I think clearly he's more of a regional candidate. Senator McCain is well within reach of getting the nominee based on Republican delegates. And matter of fact, within the next 2 or 3 weeks, he may have it all but wrapped up. And therefore, I would imagine that Governor Romney would basically say, you know what, I appreciate the support you gave me. You are free to do whatever you want. Clearly, from his perspective, it would be best for the Republican Party and the Republican nominee if all of those delegates just went over and supported McCain, because it would look like it was more of a uniform support for Senator McCain's candidacy.
What is Governor Mike Huckabee's rationale for staying in the race?
You know, that's a very interesting question, and depending on who you listen to and your perspective, I think your view on that question is different. Some are saying he's staying in the race to get his name out there for a future election. Others are saying that it's his way of getting the issues he cares about and his supporters' issues more play, more press time, and maybe more consideration from Senator McCain. There's a sort of a third group out there saying this is his way of saying, Senator McCain, I'm a viable option for you as your vice presidential nominee. I think maybe part of that is all part of the solution or the answer to your question, Justin. I also think in some ways it may be his way of saying this is my one opportunity to be in the limelight, and I enjoy what I'm doing. I don't really have a lot going on for me on my plate, and clearly it's not. He's running right now. He's running the most inexpensive campaign. He's not going into debt. He's having fun. He's connecting with the people, and I think it may be just he's enjoying himself right now.
Do you think he'll ever consider running as a vice presidential candidate for Senator McCain?
I think he would definitely consider it. I don't think it's something that he would answer in the affirmative at this point, because he clearly has hopes and dreams of still being the presidential nominee for the Republican Party. I don't know necessarily if Senator McCain is going to ask him. And the reason why is I don't know if that helps his candidacy. Typically, when you're looking for a vice presidential nominee, you're looking for very specific things. Can they get me a state? California, Texas, Florida, New York. Can they get me a certain electorate? And I don't necessarily know if Governor Huckabee has that support. Most people consider him to be a pretty social conservative. However, some of the true blue leaders of the social conservative movement don't like him because he doesn't really stand for what they consider to be socially conservative views.
Let's switch over to the Democratic side. How significant are the smaller states, like Maine's caucus, for instance, where it's such a tight race nationally? Barack Obama has 60% of Maine's vote to Senator Clinton's 40%. How important are those smaller primaries?
Well, historically, those smaller primaries and caucuses have not been that important in the overall scheme of gaining enough delegates to get nominated. This year, because it seems like everything is so close, everything seems to be close to a 50-50 split, that every delegate counts, and therefore Maine, Vermont, Rhode Island become more prominent in the overall delegate count. What's interesting is that Senator Clinton, I think, made a conscious decision to focus all of her resources and energies on the so-called larger states. Senator Obama has decided, you know what, every delegate counts, and we're trying to give the message that every vote counts, and we're going to go to all the smaller states, all the hamlets in the United States. So if you look at the overall victories by state, Senator Obama is way out in front of Senator Clinton. But because of those states being not as delegate rich, the overall delegate count is still very, very close.